Welcome everyone to this new and very limited series called Meet the Players. We have been doing this CharismaToAC malarkey for about a year now, and maybe a little over a year, in fact. And we recently realized that there might be some of you out there who actually want to know just a few tidbits about who we all are. We are that conceited. We think that everyone is interested in us, and so we are starting this series here with Chris being the first of our players that is going to get asked a few questions. We're going to ask the same questions of all the players on the channel, and so you have some sort of common ground for all of them. So I'm going to start out and say, first and foremost, thank you, Chris, for wanting to take part in the first place. This was, of course, entirely voluntary, on threat of XP deductions.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that your definition of voluntary and free will is perhaps somewhat skewed compared to mine.
Yes, possibly, just because I twisted your arm and stuff.
You live in Denmark. How could you twist my arm several hundred miles away?
It's not that hard. You come to visit once a year.
That is very true, actually. I do that. That's something you already know about me. I go to visit my role-playing friends, everyone.
Yes, see, there you go. That's the first piece of information. Anyway, let's start. Your name, your full name. Obviously, they know you as Chris and your various names. But do you want to share your full name?
Yes, I'm sure that everyone here is very lovely and won't somehow steal my identity just from my full name. Name Christopher Corbin.
Indeed. And how old are you?
As of this recording, 23.
Oh my goodness, I feel old.
I am. I should point out that does technically make me, as far as I'm aware, the youngest player in our entire menagerie.
Yes, I believe it does. All right. What do you do?
Well,
So,
I live.
as in, yeah. Ha ha. I mean, as in your job, if you have one, your education, if you're attending one, that sort of thing.
As of the recording, I'm currently working as an administrator with a firm that specializes in producing ID and security cards, or at least printers for ID and security cards, and ship them internationally. So yes, I do administration and some accounting for them in regards to processing and recording invoices, credit notes, and requests for sort of purchase orders, that sort of thing.
So basically, you work for the man.
Yes, as far as I'm aware, the company isn't a subsidiary of Pentex, so I think I'm clean. But otherwise,
Right.
I am one of those. I'm one of those sad suit-wearing desk jockeys in real life.
Oh dear. Yes. What kind of education do you have, if any?
A British one, which I'm sure some of you will find very, very tragic. I've got a full suite of what are called GCSEs for anyone in America, General Certificate of Standard Education. I'm not sure what the equivalent in America would actually be, but they're the basic. Probably, but they're the basic qualification one actually records the need to get any kind of employment as a qualification. 11 of those, with the highest graded ones being in drama, English language, English literature, and I believe the sciences. I have several what are called A levels, which are the qualification you would get at, I suppose, junior high school and high school be the equivalent, but in England we call it sixth form. I can't quite work out why. And it's basically the next level education up. And again, A levels, only 4 of those were taken, and they were in English literature, drama, history, and sociology, of all things. After that, I went on to university to do a foundation degree, which is like a kind of a practical version of a degree in actor training for theatre and media, which is where I got most of my my sort of acting qualification and experience from. I learned about various artists and various theatre practitioners and pioneers, I suppose is the word. People like Konstantin Stanislavski, Bertolt Brecht, Antonin Artaud, just rattling off names that you may or may not know of. Let's face it. And I learnt a lot of my acting technique there, which I'm able to put to some use in role playing. And then, most recently, as of the last couple of years, I also have, for practical reasons, because as it turns out, having an acting degree is all well and good until you need to get a practical job working for the man. I ended up doing an apprenticeship in business administration, which required me to do, aside from the qualification at college, also required me to do a year's worth of practical work experience at a place of employment, which, for my lucky stars, turned out to be working at my local county museum, which was just about the best job I could ever have hoped to have had, for even if it was just for a year.
Yes. Well, that was quite. I'll say that was actually quite detailed and quite extensive. So that should give people an idea. I mean, I know we've had at least one of our commenters point out that your acting skills are superb, and that you and obviously, I mean, this sort of underscores why you since you actually have a degree in acting.
Yes.
So, the next question here is: if you are in the banner, can you say something about your portrayal? And obviously, this is the banner on the CharismaToAC YouTube channel. And as we have to admit, you are in fact in the banner. You are the black-bearded fellow all the way out on the right.
I was about to say, I'm the guy on the far right, but that does not reflect my political views in any way, thank God.
No, that would be. I think that, yeah.
I'm the chill, bearded-looking dude in the sort of the black and white clothing. I would say of it, it's very sweet. I look a lot more laid back in that image than I actually am in real life.
But I'll sign off on that, by the way.
But yeah.
Having known you for about 7 years, I can attest that yes, you are not quite that laid back. Well, other than that, I actually think that the amazing thing about these small images is that Michelle actually manages to capture something essential about each of us in them. They're recognizable, you know.
I mean, for example, our storyteller is literally swathed in black flame all the time.
Yes, all the time, yes, because I am. We all know that. But this is not about me, muahaha. It's about you.
Yeah. Of course.
But yes, I think other than the fact that you're probably not quite that laid back, I actually think it's a pretty good image of you.
Yeah, so do I.
And
okay.
So how long have you been role-playing?
Since 2014, so I'm only a fairly recent convert.
Yes, yes you are. And so that makes it, by now, almost 3 years. Was it early in 2014, or I think it was, wasn't it? It was pretty early in 2014.
It was very early in 2014, because I remember it was at the very start of the year. Well, I think this actually runs into the next question I've got listed, but what's the next question you've got?
The next question is how you got into the hobby.
Yes, so that's basically what I can go straight into.
Yeah, let's go into that one as well.
Well, basically, it was actually before I met any of these guys, anyone else in the group that eventually became the main group of CharismaToAC. My brother, my younger brother of all things, lovely chap, he ran a 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons game. Well, that was the setting, the system, sorry. But the setting was one he'd actually created himself, with his own set of gods, his own landscape, his own sort of world mythology. It wasn't Tolkien, for goodness sake, but it was very good. I certainly thought it was very creative of him, and I certainly enjoyed playing the part. In the game, with my first ever character for role playing, for Dungeons and Dragons, anything, was a gnome sorcerer with the suitably epic name of Derwent Marshalson, who I portrayed as being a sarky northerner from, like Yorkshire or something.
Oh dear.
Yes.
A Yorkshire gnome.
A Yorkshire gnome, yes.
That to anyone who knows the first thing about Yorkshiremen, I think, Chris, you may have to hire professional guards from now on if this gets out. But all right.
Well, yeah. Let's just hope Erica doesn't find out.
Fair enough.
But the point is that Yes, that was my first character, and I enjoyed playing that character so much that when eventually in mid 2014 I was asked by our dear storyteller to fill out a place on a group that they were running. It was using Pathfinder rules, but it was set in the Forgotten Realms, and it was basically it was in the city of Waterdeep in that setting. For anyone who knows, it was basically almost like a fantasy version of Boardwalk Empire or Peaky Blinders, where like a group of ne'er-do-wells illicitly got their hands on a pub and started trying to create their own little criminal enterprise. And my character, and that version of Derwent was a scholar scribe sort of character who had sorceress abilities, who got in on the whole thing to help do some sweet talking, because his major talent was his ability to be persuasive. He was a very gifted sort of diplomat and
Let's
things
call
like that.
it what it is. He was an exceptional bullshitter.
Yes, he was a gifted turd polisher of the highest degree.
Yes.
And he kept the northern accent, which made it even more impressive.
Yes, actually it did.
Yes, he was very good. I only joined him for I think the last of 4 or 5 sessions, and at the end of it, he very nearly died at the hands of some cult leader or something trying to blow everyone up. But he just about survived. And the last we ever saw of that character was him slumped over the bar of the pub he jointly owned, wanting a drink to forget the whole thing, because it had been quite an experience.
Yes.
But that's basically how I got into the role playing, and that's pretty much how I got into being with this group.
Yes. So, other than role playing, which obviously takes up an inordinate amount of your free time these days, do you have any other hobbies or interests that you want to share?
Absolutely. The only pastime that takes up exponentially more of my free time than role playing is video gaming. Incessantly.
Well, any particular genres that you're interested in terms of computer games?
It is quite varied. I would. What's the genre I play the most? I would say it's gonna. I'd probably play a lot more role-playing, ironically role-playing systems, things like a lot of BioWare titles, things like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, but also a couple of. I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy, but ironically, my favourite game, maybe not of all time, but certainly of recent years, is not a role-playing game of any kind. It's the newest reboot of Doom, because I've not had quite so much pure fun in a video game than when I played Doom, because what could be more fun than killing demons with a double-barreled shotgun?
I'm you have me there.
And other than video games, I very much enjoy reading. I consider myself highly literate.
I'd say so.
Well, considering that my favourite book of all time, genuinely, is the Silmarillion, which takes a bit of getting into. That does put me in good stead for being highly literate.
Yes, and for those of our readers who might not know this, that is the Silmarillion is a book written by J.R.R. Tolkien, and he himself considered it his primary work. He thought himself that was his finest work. It is also exceptionally hard to read because it's heavy mythology from start to finish. Basically, it's heavy going, but it is an excellent read.
It is an excellent read. It's like if it's a combination of a brief history of the entirety of Tolkien's setting with elements of epic storytelling, because he was among other things a professor of Anglo-Saxon and a highly reputable mythology scholar. So try and string those words together and say them quickly. Highly reputable mythology scholar.
That sounds like
exactly.
one of those old-fashioned inebriation tests that the police would give you when they stopped you on the highway if your car was going from side to side. Anyway,
yes, as the storyteller can attest to, I'm a fan of tongue twisters as well. But the other thing that I enjoy as a hobby, and I'm saying try and get this through as quickly so we can get to the next question, is singing. I wouldn't call myself. Well, I can't sing things like opera. I'm not that good a singer, but I enjoy folk stuff. I'm part of a local group, I will call it an acoustics group, that we get together at our local pub every month or so, and we all play music and sing together. And my specialty is I sing a cappella sea shanties.
Oh, cool! I like that. All right, that's actually I have to admit I didn't even know that you were part of that group, and as I said, I've known you for 7 years. So, all right, let's get into more role playing related specific sort of things here. So, what about role playing is it that you particularly like? What do you like best about the hobby?
I would say that partly due to my acting education, a chance to act, to portray a character, and to infuse emotion and history, and to put weight behind the words of a character I get to play. But also because of my interest in world building, I love being able to interact with worlds that are well fleshed out, or at least appeal to a kind of fantasy aesthetic, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So a chance to interact with the world of the Forgotten Realms, the world of Pathfinder in Golarion, the world of the Imperium of Man in Dark Heresy, or the world of Darkness, as we do in any World of Darkness game, whether it be Werewolf the Apocalypse, Vampire the Masquerade, anything.
Yes.
So just the chance to be a part of that world setting and to interact with it is always what draws me to it.
Yes. Well, and I know in your case you haven't actually played for that many years, so the next question might not, we might not have that many different systems to choose between, but what would you say your favorite RP system is from the ones that you've played?
Of the total of 3
Yeah.
that I've played, of D&D 3rd Edition, Pathfinder, and the storyteller system used in World of Darkness, I'm going to say the storyteller system, because it's streamlined enough that even for my stumbling attempts at you doing combat in that system, it has enough sort of forward momentum and enough streamlining that I can just focus on role-playing character and have the little dots on the character page back that up when necessary.
Yeah.
Or
it is a very story and narrative driven game rather than being extremely rules heavy. Obviously, that particular system, the storyteller system, I don't know if they were the first to use the so-called golden rule, but they certainly made it famous. The golden rule, obviously, being if the rules get in the way of what you want to do, screw the rules. And obviously you can take that to too far of an extreme. I routinely skirt the borders of that extreme, I admit. But the point is that it is a system which is meant to be very much about the people and the story, and not quite so much about rules and rolling dice.
yes, which ironically might tie in a little bit to potentially, depending on what question you give me next, might tie into one of my later answers anyway.
Well, we shall see. The next one, of course, would for me be what are your pet peeves?
Yes, basically ties into that. My major pet peeve when it comes to, I assume, to role playing, not just in general.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I don't like spam.
Spam, 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 spam,
God.
spam, 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 spam. Wonderful
Yes.
spam. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Something else that now they know about both of us. We both know and enjoy Monty Python.
Yes.
But then, who the hell doesn't?
Exactly.
But yeah, my major pet peeve in role playing is quibbling about rules and things during gameplay, because it just completely kills the flow of gameplay, and it completely kills the immersion, and it can get people down. And this has only occurred a few times in the time I've been there.
Yeah.
And I certainly understand that if some rules do need to be looked at and maybe debated, but not in the middle of gameplay. Wait for a pause in the gameplay, a break, or wait until after or before the next session, not in the middle of the session, because it's just gonna really frustrate everything and frustrate everyone around it.
Yeah. If it's a quick correction, if let's say woe betide us all, I might actually have misunderstood a rule, me the storyteller, because I am a walking rules encyclopedia, as we all know. Cough, cough, cough. Heavy dose of irony there. So if I've actually gotten a rule ass backwards, and somebody feels like correcting me because it might have dire implications otherwise, I'm all right with with that happening. But if I put my foot down and invoke Rule 0 or the Golden Rule and say, we're going to go with what I said, then yes, let's not do the quibbling thing because it's going to take up time and it's going to kill the immersion. I personally agree with what you just said.
Yes.
So, all right, which of your current characters, the ones that you play right now, would you say is your favorite to play, and why is it your favorite?
Of the grand total of, well, say currently, officially I play 3 characters. Unofficially, I'm only playing 2 at the moment because one of the characters is on indefinite hold, unfortunately. But of the 2 I majorly play at the moment, it's going to be Taliesin from Song of Tara.
Yes.
Because not only do I have a chance to role play what I think is a very interesting character, and even if I sometimes cringe at my own attempt to maintain a consistent Welsh accent when in the midst of intense role playing, because it is difficult.
Yes.
And it does vary, and my accent does vary, sadly. The main thing about it is that it gives me a chance to stretch my other creative muscles a bit. It challenges me to also not just to be able to roleplay, but as you can attest to come up with epic recounts of our adventures. Because as a Gaillard, as a sort of the storyteller, the skald of Werewolf Society, or as a skald of Werewolf Society, Taliesin has to make epic the deeds of our pack, that people can hear of it in awe in the years to come, and will earn sort of.
And boy howdy does he. Holy shit.
I do try and put a lot of work into not only the poetry itself, because the way I do it is it is poetry which is then recited in the fashion of an epic, but then to then recite.
I've been in this hobby for 30 plus years. I've played World of Darkness games for 20 odd years of those, and in all that time I have never known anyone who went to the lengths you do to write those poems and that kind of recounting. And as we can tell from the comments on the vids, it's something that the listeners pay attention to as well. It is epic. It's amazing every time.
Yes, it's particularly. I mean, yeah, the amount of comments we got for the first ever tale of ours in that setting was. I mean, it came out of nowhere for both the players and for listeners, in that again it was unprecedented. It's not the kind of thing that's been really done before.
Yeah.
I will admit, I then look at the one where I did the second set of recitals for the next moot, and there's not a single comment there. It's like, oh, okay. But
fishing for sympathy here.
Kind of. But the point is that no, again, I do enjoy it, and I was genuinely thrilled by the reaction I got for it, because it shows that the effort I put in paid off. The long hours pondering what rhyming scheme to use to try and find appropriate rhymes for words that don't just make it sound too silly. Try and find, where can I repeat a rhyming word further down the line that won't make it too samey.
Yes.
So that's
and still trying to maintain a rhythm throughout all of it. Of course, I'm still waiting for you to actually belt this out in iambic pentameter.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
It would. Shakespeare hasn't lived for nothing. Anyway, let's continue on and say the next question here is, yes. Are there certain character types that you're more likely to play? That being roles and or personality types. I
won't say this is a failing. I'll say it's just natural to the way I've grown up and the way that I've sort of developed as a person. I will naturally wind up playing characters that suit who I am. So creatives and intellectuals. I've written as my notes. I've written bumblers, basically people who sort of stumble through things without necessarily thinking them through, and then kind of hope they haven't screwed up too badly, sort of thing.
Yeah.
People who are naturally empathetic, because I'm one of those people, and I've told this to I've been told this and tell this to people. I'm one of those people in life that just wear their heart on their sleeve and can't really switch that off.
Yeah, that is very true. You do.
So I kind of have to play characters who are going to be emotionally invested in anything they do. I'm very bad at, although I'm not sure if I'm really upset about this. I'm bad at playing sociopaths and people who guard their emotions well. So, although I'd like to be able to play characters like that, particularly for games like Vampire the Masquerade, unfortunately, I'm probably going to end up again gravitating towards people who playing characters in a way that is sympathetic to those around them on just naturally.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
you're going to end up playing the world's nicest Toreador, aren't you?
probably. Or I could end up playing some. I'll end up playing someone like Sandy.
Oh, good. Yes, possibly actually. Um,
That would be interesting if I end up playing her in a separate game. That would be
that would be twisted.
twisted.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
Yes. All right. So you're basically what you're saying is you're playing characters that are somehow reflections of yourself, but perhaps given a twist in this or that direction, or basically being you turned up to 110%.
Not entirely. Well, you and I can both agree that there are certainly elements of Taliesin that are reflected in myself.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, but there are elements of him that are very unlike me. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean,
So,
it's not like you're making a carbon copy of yourself and giving it a new name. That's not what I meant.
no, I mean, I think the amount of the things that he does. I certainly a lot of the situations he gets himself into that he throws himself into willingly. I would probably just like keel over in terror at.
Yes. Plus, you don't actually smoke weed.
Yes, I like to point that out. I don't smoke weed. I'm curious, but not so curious that I want to actively go out and do it. Unfortunately, unlike in parts of America, in England, you can't get that legally. But that's enough of that anyway. And yes,
Yeah,
otherwise, yes, and I'm not much of a fighter. I genuinely, to use a fancy word, I abhor conflict
Yes.
of any kind, and I do my best to always avoid it, sometimes to my own detriment.
Yes.
But otherwise, yeah, the only character that hasn't fitted that mold, and even then it started leaning that way until I sort of really struggled against it, was my character in Burning Wheel, Nicholas Smock, who had to be like a sociopathic criminal mastermind wannabe who is prepared to beat people up and nick all their stuff with a shit-eating grin on his face.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that might have been difficult for you, at least at times.
Yeah.
But that does lean into the next question, actually. If there's any type of RP that you have yet to try that you would like to try.
I will preface my full answer to this question by saying that if I'm going to pick a game, it is going to be for setting over system. Because although a good system will obviously complement anyone's immersion and ability to play a role-playing game enjoyably and successfully,
Yes.
to me the system is utterly secondary to, again, to the setting being in the world, the lore, the characters, whatever. If we would play, for example, a Song at Tara using bloody D&D rules but kept the setting of a Song at Tara that you've created, Joan, I would be happy with that. Because although it wouldn't fit very well, at least it works.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
With that being said, systems I would like to try. I did get a taste of the system that the sort of the CharismaToAC, the other team, the one that I don't, involving people that I'm not really have anything to do with, is the Masks. Is Masks, I think, is Powered by the Apocalypse. It's called. That was a nice system because again you could go through. It made the interaction between the role playing part and then into the combat and action part. It integrated it in such a way that it came off as just a little bit more seamless. But I only played it once, so I haven't really had a chance to get completely immersed in it.
All right.
And then for games with settings, any other role playing setting or any role play game that uses, again, Tolkien's work. Some of the other Warhammer RPGs like Rogue Trader or maybe even Warhammer Fantasy role playing, and any RPG system that uses Star Wars.
Yes.
Because although playing as a Jedi or Force user in that system is broken as hell, I'd still like to try and play one where I'm, like a soldier or a smuggler or something.
Yes. And well, in that case, seeing as you do clearly have some ideas of what you would like to try, do you have any do you have any RP related advice that you'd like to share with viewers here? I imagine that the people who are listening in here are role players themselves, and none of us here on this channel have, as I always say, found the philosopher's stone. We're just players like anyone else out there who enjoy the hobby, but that doesn't mean that we can't have an idea or two here or there as to what we would like to share with others.
Of course. My advice would actually be similar to a piece of advice I always take when it comes to acting, which is just to enjoy the process of it. It's not always about the end goal, with even not just in terms of getting through, getting into the dungeon, slaying the dragon, and getting the gold, or the equivalent in any other role-playing system. But enjoy the process of going through the adventure, enjoy the process of interacting with both your fellow players and NPCs, enjoy the process of getting to use the system, because even for all my stumbling in the combat, I enjoy the process of getting to the point where, all right, I can finally roll the correct dice and get to go, oh, that's a good roll, or oh, that's a bad roll, that's going to cost us something, and just
one of your patented, oh yeah, I'm gonna die.
I mean, how much did I whinge like when one decision I made, one sort of throwaway decision of, oh yeah, I'm gonna yell in character as I charge the person we've been trying to chase down for several years. Does that then give him the advantage of being able to start combat without us surprising him? And it's like I spent half the night just going, oh, why did I do that? But it was fun because it changed the dynamic.
It did, and it arguably made for a more epic encounter, in my opinion. So
Yes.
I certainly did not see a problem with it. But then again, I was the GM. I don't
No,
think
of
your
course.
fellow players had a problem with it either. However,
No,
they all made sure that you knew that it was fine.
yes, of course. And one other piece of advice I give before we move on is, again, like acting, there's one thing I've learned about being in a role play group. It is this: whichever group you're in, whoever you're being with, and it's not true of everyone you play with, but you're going to end up playing alongside or interacting with a lot of very big personalities, because role playing attracts big personalities. When I mean big personalities, people with very sort of either bombastic or articulate, people who have very strong opinions, or who are very emphatic and very open about their opinions and how they like things done.
Very sincere people.
Yes, we're very sincere people, but that can often lead to some degree of friction because everyone's opinion is unique and they don't always gel well. There have been plenty of times where we've discussed things both on and off air, as it were, about our differences in terms of role playing, and it's never quite come to any broken friendships or anything. Might have come close once or twice, but things get patched up later because we could do that. But the point is that even if it's difficult at times, I would advise always try and be respectful of everyone's role-playing intent, even if you personally disagree with it. But their approach is just as valid as yours. That being said, if their insistence on how they want things done becomes obstructive, or they're not respectful towards you, then absolutely call them out on it. Yes. Because everyone needs to be able to enjoy it, and if one person is obstructing that, then it needs to be dealt with. Hopefully diplomatically, and if not, then just by cutting them out of it if needs be.
Well, respect obviously is a two-way street.
Of course.
So, yeah, well, I think that's good advice for anyone, actually, and not only in terms of role-playing, but I think it certainly applies there. So, on to a more... well, let's take it in the reverse here. Now we've talked about you as a player, but do you have any GM experience?
No. Next question.
I know that you planned for a while to maybe try, but you never got around to it.
But I still am. That ties into the next question.
Yes, so that's
I believe.
Yeah, the next or final question I'll ask is basically I'll cede the floor to you, sir, and ask: is there anything else you'd like to share about yourself?
Well, other than the fact that I would like to get some role-playing experience,
true,
because
yes.
I'm trying to get a local localized group set up because I made some new friends last year who haven't been introduced to role playing, and they want to get started with the latest edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which is 5th edition. I've got the player's handbook. I've gotten the first ever campaign module book for that setting, Horde of the Dragon Queen, involving the rise of Tiamat, or Tiamat, how you pronounce it. But unfortunately, there's only me and 2 people, and you can't really run a campaign like D&D with 2 player characters. I need at least 2 more, or well, at least 1 more, but ideally 2 more.
Ideally 2
and
more, yes.
At the moment, that just isn't happening. So
here's hoping.
Here's hoping. Anything else I'd like to say about myself?
Well, while you think about that, I can always say that obviously down the road, if you feel up to it and so on, there might be an opening for you to run something here on CharismaToAC, or at least you maybe a one-shot or something. That's a possibility in any case.
That would be good. I would say the other thing I'd like to, well, not something I'd like to share, but something else I'd like to do is, for the channel, is I'd like to do solo recordings of the tales I've done. Hopefully with slightly improved microphone and just sound in general, because while the ones we've had are good, sound quality is always a bit ropey at times, so I'd like to get some clear recordings of each of the recitals.
Yes,
if it means redubbing them.
Yes, that actually probably sounds like a pretty good idea. I could certainly see that being a good idea, because, well, people have been asking if there's any place where they can see them, because it's a fine piece of writing. So yes, but is there anything else that you feel like bringing to the table and sharing with the listeners?
No, I think that's about everything.
All right. Well, in that case, this has been the first recording of Meet the Players with Chris Corbin, who those of you who listen will recognize from some of our campaigns. And we will be doing recordings like this with other players who appear on this channel on recordings as well. And I think on that note, we shall close this one down and say see you next time.
Well,